Thank you, speakers. It's already 10 p.m., but I see that you all look very glued into the whole thing. We can extend it for another 2 more questions from the floor. But before I open it up again, I urge you to actually look at last week's copy of The Edge weekly, because there was a very special interview by the Auditor General, sort of like a retirement interview, what he thought about a lot of things. And he actually said, I'm not a babysitter of the public sector. I'm tired of saying things over and over again and trying to protect you from being criticized further. But we have to call a spade a spade. And he did mention, I think the reporter who interviewed him pressed him hard on 1MDB. And he did acknowledge the fact that 1MDB may need a further auditing, but he had also acknowledged the fact that the AG office is not fully equipped in terms of infrastructure, because this is a very complicated exercise. There's money parked overseas, and there's all kinds of things. So he does not want to take on something that he does not have the confidence will actually result in a very comprehensive professional report. So the AG office is also asking for more expertise. And so I think that's an indication of something not quite right with the system, whether the expertise is actually in the right places. Now we see good people like this from MACC, Public Accounts Committee, and so on, but we're not really confident about the fact that the capacity and the resources are also in place to allow them to carry out their work. So we actually hear a lot of this political football thing. I pass to this department, I pass to that department, and in the end we don't really know what's happening. And KLIA too actually seems to suggest that from the way Datuk Nur Jazlan has described the thing just now. So it's really back to us. And I think if we keep quiet, this mess is going to go on some more. So I'll allow 2 more questions, and then we will introduce a very short a website. It's a crowdsourcing website called combatcorruption.my. And it's an effort from us, from C4, to actually get more of you to comment on the next Auditor General's report that's coming up. It synthesizes a lot of what the AG report is. And it's in very nice social media form, so it's very easy. I'll show it to you at the end. But can I now have 2 more comments or questions? Anyone? No? No. Anyone who hasn't already asked a question? You all are so satisfied with the panel. Yes, okay, I see 2 hands. Yes, this gentleman here, and then the person at the back.
No, actually, I just want to ask one question. Like earlier, our gentleman there, he was mentioning about the laptop bought for 3,000 was purchased for 30,000 or 40,000. So what was the action taken against the MACC towards this person, this concern?
Okay, thank you. Last question, please.
Hello, I'm more concerned about what MACC is going to do about all these things. Is there any clear plan, any clear step that you want to do that can rectify the current situation? Now, I don't know when's the last time you walked on a kopitiam, but if you go to a kopitiam anywhere in Penang or anywhere else, you can hear people cursing MACC and cursing the government in a daily basis. So every time we hear that, we say, it's like that, lor. Malaysia is like that, lor. So on behalf of MACC, what do you think that MACC want to do? And I don't think the public want to listen to the law jargon and everything. People want to know the very clear step that what can MACC do to improve the situation and take action. Thank you.
Thank you. MACC.
Fair. I'll put it this way, you see, when we talk about fighting corruption, it's not always about from the top down. If you look at corruption from an overall perspective, it is also from the bottom going upwards. You see, civil society, bottom up. Civil society, you have to take a role. Because in civil society, you have to expose corruption. Don't talk about corruption. Expose it, reject it, demand, that there is accountability and transparency through this kind of forum. And then not only that, we are talking about you need to change the public attitude and perception of this corruption problem. How people understand, how people see corruption. We look at Malaysia today, for instance, when you have a YB, you expect the YB to contribute to funerals, give donations, that kind of thing, But then, where is he going to source the money from, You expect certain thing, but so the public also contribute to the problem of corruption. So, what I say is that we all need to examine our respective roles and responsibility. What are we doing about it? It's easy to talk. I like to tell you about, I'm non-partisan, but I would like to read this story which happened to me. I was on a cab going from my house in Subang towards the airport. This taxi driver was telling me, he told me, he was in a coffee shop. People were criticizing the enforcement officers in the local council. They say, these fellas are on the take, How come the government is not doing about it? We should replace the government. My taxi driver asked them, which government are you talking about? You see? Which government? State government? Federal government? You see? When you talk about corruption, it's like this. It's very easy to get influence, but the question is, what are you doing about it? As far as MACC, the moment we receive a report of corruption, a report that involves corruption, or a report that doesn't involve corruption, this is what we do. Non-corruption, we will refer to the respective agency, or let's say if there's a complaint of enforcement duties, of course it goes to respective corruption duty. Now, if there is an allegation of involving corruption, we have to look at it in two aspects. Is it pursuable or non-pursuable? Pursuable means you have somebody to fall back on. There's a specific complainant. Very good details are provided. If pursuable, we'll conduct inquiry or investigation. If it's non-pursuable, but there is element of corruption, non-pursuable, that means no specific evidence, normally we pass it to the intelligence side, for verification, for them to look deeper into the problem. So actually, we look into all reports of corruption. See, like say, we can only investigate, but the outcome of it is not really for us to say. Okay, now does that mean we are shoddy? Does that mean we are not acting professionally? Then does that mean we are not efficient? It's quite difficult for me to say, because at the moment, MACC, we are undergoing a very specific transformation process. We are trying to update on our procedure, our training. We are continually learning and trying to improve our methodologies, So that much I can say lah. Our intentions very clear. Our focus very clear. In fact, many people don't understand us. I even wrote a poem on this, You want to hear the poem about MACC? I think I don't want to read the poem. Okay, you want to hear a poem? I recite the poem here. Okay. I'm an MACC officer. It's a job I do. The pay isn't good, but enough to feed a family of one or two. Okay. I can't remember what was the next line, but I can't remember the actual poem, but okay, I have to check my my handphone. Very sorry. Okay.
We'll leave it to the end when he gets to the lyrics right, okay?
May I interject?
Yes?
May I interject? I have a question for the MACC representative. Hi, I'm Ha from Penang. I have a very simple question. The MACC always says it's an investigative body with no authority to prosecute. May I know what happens if I have a complaint against the Attorney General? Will he implicate himself and prosecute himself? How do we prevent a conflict of interest in these kind of cases?
Now, under the Criminal Procedure Code, if the MACC were to investigate the Attorney General, okay, Basically, the Criminal Procedure Code does has a specific provision where it allows for the Solicitor General to take over. Okay. For instance, what happened was I remember when the case involving a report lodged by I think Anwar Ibrahim, if I'm not mistaken, where the parties alleged were the Attorney General and our Tan Sri Musa. You see, so the MHC appointed, through the Solicitor General at that time, 3 judges to review the investigation paper, and they make a decision. I think it was by a 2-1 decision that there was not a case against the Attorney General or Tan Sri Musa. Okay, thank you.
Can I just respond first to the questions just now? On the computer, the 48,000 computer. You see, sometimes when I laugh, when I'm thinking about these things, I laugh to myself. You know why? Procedurally, sometimes what happens is this. Say you have a procurement of a project, right? Part of the project is, also concerns procurement of computers. Now, the budget for procurement of the project is set at, say, 10 million, right? So what happens is, that's the budget that's set. But once you do the PQ, the bill of quantities, sometimes it doesn't reach 10 million. Say it reaches 9.5 million. So the civil servants also, because they ask for a budget of 10 million, and then they come up with a BQ of 9.5, they also don't want to cover up their, they're not being efficient in projecting the cost. So what happens is that 500,000, they allocate to items. For example, the computer, they allocate that 500,000 to that computer. So that's why when you see the total bill of quantities, right, is 10 million. It's still 10 million, but the individual quantities, it may be inflated because that difference just now between the budgeted cost and the actual BQ has been allocated to individual items in the code. Now, when it comes to the PAC, what do we do? Who do we pinpoint? Who's at fault? What's the fault? What's the offense? Huh? I'm not making an excuse. Listen to what I say. No, listen to what I say. This is the procedure that's being used in the civil service now. No, allocated. But the ceiling, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Didn't go to anybody's pocket. They spent 10 million, but then they allocated the cost back down. Yeah. Okay, you tell me who would be at fault. Who pocketed the money? You don't know who pocketed the money. That's my point. How to get evidence to prove who actually did it? This is. That's my point. It's done by committee and everything. So who do you pinpoint? Who's at fault? See, this is what if you're in the system, you're trying to prove something. If you want to pinpoint against somebody, you need to have evidence. Who did it? Somebody believes the computer is 55,000. No, it's a bill of quantities. It's an allocation of the cost of bill quantities. That's all. That's all. It's not bill quantities wrong. It's just that the actual figure is different. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can you use the microphone, please? No. It's for the video recording and all that. Hold on. This gentleman wants to say something first.
Okay. No. If this is a case, I think we have already gone on for a very long time on the wrong culture.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't mean that no. If your budget for your ministry or your department is, just say that 10 million, and you spend 9.5 million, it need not mean that you have to spend the balance of the other 500,000. Just like Penang, if they don't meet that quota, then the thing should go back on into the coffer of the nation.
Gentlemen?
No, that's just, I haven't finished what I said just now. That's where the PAC comes in, where we recommend changes to the procedures. You're talking about things which happened in the past. Years later it's found out, but it's a common practice. So what the PAC does is, when we look at these issues, we recommend the changes. Why are you still using the old budget? You should use your revised budget, right? These are things. And also, coming to the AG's department also, we at the PAC, I'm a professional accountant by background, so I have commercial auditing experience. Sometimes the work of the audit department itself, the AG is not here today, is quite lacking. Because they sometimes they don't look at how commercial audit is being done. And I can tell you, in the AG's department, they probably have only 4 or 5 professional accountants. The rest are all administrative staff. That's why just now Cynthia was mentioning about the AG having reservations about his own department, trying to do an audit with the staff that they have. They have a lack of professional staff without real life experience, right? And then they can't pick up on the complicated issues that sometimes the professional accountants can pick up very quickly. So we recommend change how you do things. That's where the PAC comes in. That's where we have the value added. And civil servants respond to that. They change their procedures and everything. There was one case about the clock that was bought in RTM. Remember, 3,000 ringgit for the clock? Now the AG department, they just generalized the clock. They said on average the clock costs 3,000 ringgit. They generalized. Wall clock, atomic clock, because in broadcasting, you need the atomic clock. You need accurate timing. But what they did was, in their report, they just lumped every single clock together and averaged out 3,000. Of course, the atomic clock, which is time accurate, costs more than the wall clock. They should have pointed it out. So when in the report came out, on average, the cost is 3,000 for the clocks that was purchased for the studio. Bam, it goes out in the press. All of you read, 3,000 ringgit for a clock. How can it happen? But if the Auditor General's department in the report was more precise, they explained that this clock is, some clocks are atomic, some clocks are normal wall clocks, the issue wouldn't come up. So that's why we're also trying to get them to be more precise in how they report, because it is our credibility. I'm very careful in what I do because I have my professional credibility. I don't want to lose it. I'm in politics now. I shouldn't talk like that, because in politics you lose your credibility very fast. But I'm still a professional accountant, and I still want to maintain that. So, I monitor what the audit department does and make sure that when they do their reporting, they improve themselves. The K-pop just now. The K-pop, it is in our report. You can get it. I'm trying to get it up in our website so that you can download in PDF form. The government expenditure is only 2 million. The balance that Stephen was talking about is sponsorship. Some people give, like for example, telephone companies give away SIM cards. So it all adds up to become whatever million now, right? So the audit department did not differentiate between this. And the issue was actually about payments. Some payments were made earlier, and later on reimbursed by the sponsors. They did not highlight this in the report, and therefore it caused confusion for for the public when the public reads it. And of course, the media will come in and sensationalize everything. You know, so I'm not trying to defend. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend. I'm just trying to basically tell you in layman's terms what really happened.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now I think it's back to the original objective of the forum. We don't have time for more questions, but we have a chance for us to get organized. And I would like to appeal to all of you, when the March Parliament session convenes, the AG report for 2014, Siri Pertama, will be tabled. Now, I need the people in Penang to work together with the rest of us in KL and in other parts of the country to look at the details of the AG report and to actually scrutinize your own state government, because let's not get them off the radar. We have to make sure that the state government is also following principles of good governance, and that we become the monitors. We become the auditors together with Datuk Nur Jazlan. Now, I just want to show you a site because we need to actually get ourselves more engaged in the whole process. Now, the first thing we want to ask these institutions before us. Now, you see, they are talking, and I think they're talking about how to improve themselves. The first thing we need to ask them is to make their inquiries and to make their investigations public. Do you agree with that? Yeah, it's such a soft yes. Yes, because that is the way we can get sensitized. Now, I was talking to Datuk Nur Jazlan earlier on our flight, whether he would be open to having his public inquiries open to the public. And he said, yes, I have no problem, but I can't answer for my other ministers and others sitting in the Public Accounts Committee. So one thing we can push him to do is to ensure that the inquiries are actually open, so that we can sit in and we can get sensitized, we can get the info directly firsthand. You can take a Firefly flight down, bus, whatever, and join the whole discussions. Wait, hold on 1 second. MACC. We don't know what MACC is doing, hence the frustration. Now, can we ask MACC, after the closure of an investigation and before they send it to the public prosecutors, the Attorney General's chambers, whether they can actually make it public on their website? What was the outcome of the investigations? Will that help us keep track? Much better, right? We will know. So we actually need these institutions to open up to us, because if we, the public, want to get engaged, we need to ask them to cooperate with us to get more involved in the process. And the more involved we are, the more sensitized we will be. And that really is our goal. Now I'm going to ask Combat Corruption. Okay, now this is what we created as a C4 website. It's a crowdsourcing project. Actually, it's very, very simple. We have simplified the AG report as per the summary document. So we put a hard look at the AG report. You can have your say now. And this is the outline of all the things. All you need to click is, okay, One Bestari Net service. We talked about that just now. What is that? Now, you hope your MP, Zairil and Stephen, will talk about One Bestari Net. But I think they have a bigger responsibility to take this discussion to their constituencies, to break it down for you. And then you look at One Bestari Net, you open, you say, okay, this is what was the estimate budget, this was what was used. And then we also give you a chance to rate the ministries. Now, probably you give every ministry a pink or red mark. Now, which ministry will survive a blue mark is very interesting to see. But this is actually simple based on your own experience. Then you read this, and you are allowed to submit a report. Now, what we will do, we will compile. Depends on how people engage with this project. So we are going around talking about it. So you can rate the different ministers and the ministries, not by how handsome they are, but how effective they've actually been with their departments. Okay, then what will happen? We will pick out the best 100, 200 comments, and we'll turn it into a citizen audit report. And we will hand it to our dear Datuk Nur Jazlan here, who has agreed to accept it in Parliament. So if it's a March sitting, we will work very hard to get all our responses out. The June sitting, we will pass him the comments from the March sitting. Now, the interesting thing is the first people to pick up interest on this idea is not people who live in Malaysia, but all our friends from Malaysia who live overseas. So those friends of us in Melbourne, in Sydney, in London, have already presented their own comments because they got a lot of auditors working. Our brain drain has resulted in our auditors going overseas to work. They have actually submitted reports to C4 for us to hand over to Datuk Nur Jazlan in March. But I think we need to start getting our act together. This is just a simple way in which we can engage with our technology to drive transparency through government. And I think we are very happy that we have the public institutions here before us agreeing to talk to us and agreeing to engage with us. So we have to play our part. So there's a lot that we can actually get them to do things and improve further. So we thank you very much for staying, for being so glued in. I think you could stay until 12 midnight, right? Some of you look like you have many questions to ask. But feel free to engage with the panelists once the forum is over. And on behalf of the organizers, and before I pass the microphone to the MC, I'd just like to personally thank each speaker for making this event so interesting. Because I think one thing I have to say, which may sound political, even though I'm not I'm not from a political party, is that our government has really distracted us from these real issues of government spending, wastage, corruption, and so on. We keep being distracted by all these race, religious tensions, and I think it's purposely so that we don't actually have energy to pay attention to how our taxpayers' money is being administered. Now we have enough of their games. I think it's time for us to get organized. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you to Penang Institute and the people of Penang. And back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for all your interesting questions. Before we end the event, I would like to call upon Yang Berhormat Zairil to present a small token of appreciation on behalf of Penang Institute to our discussants.